Welcome to a podcast by Kayleigh, the gateway to unlocking your unlimited potential. I'm creating an army of 6- and 7-figure makeup artists, and I want you to join me. In this podcast, I'm going to be crushing gatekeeping, opening the doors to the knowledge you need, and deep diving into the topics that can push us to the next level. Be prepared for epic guests and answers to the questions you have always wanted to know. No more small business. No more just a makeup artist. The beauty industry is a $250 billion industry, and you're in it. Let's get ready to open those gates. This is a podcast by Kayleigh. Today on a podcast by Kayleigh, we are talking to the immaculate Johnny T Makeup. Now, Johnny T is a makeup industry veteran. He has come up through the ranks of retail and is now a well-known, amazing creator on TikTok and a destination bridal makeup artist. Johnny was suggested to come on the podcast by one of my students, Kayleigh, who was in season 4 of my mentorship. And she completely sung his praises as a role model of hers, but also she took his course on ingredients in makeup, and I was super intrigued. I knew I had to get him on, especially when I discovered his content. His makeup artistry is just out of this world. Amazing, guys. Literally pause it right now and go and take a look. If you have no idea who Johnny T is, you are going to be obsessed. One thing that I just absolutely love about his content is how to the point it is and how he breaks down ingredients and artistry like nobody else that I've seen. We talk about content, we talk about algorithms, we talk about playing the long game and how it took Johnny 10 to 15 years to actually become viral. It was not just one single post that blew Johnny up. It was years and years and years of consistency. We also talk about his wonderful brand, how he became so interested in ingredients. And I particularly had fun with Johnny when we played the Smashing the Gate game at the end. I really hope you enjoy this podcast. I really hope you gain so much from it. And it really makes you look at content in maybe a different way. Please welcome the immaculate Johnny T Makeup. So to begin, I like to start every single podcast because I really like to get to know where my guests have come from. So Johnny, I would love to know, because I actually couldn't find this anywhere on the internet for you. How did it all begin? Where did it all begin? Where did the love affair with makeup start?
That is a really good question. And I don't really talk about myself much. My Instagram is very much focused on the makeup and the techniques. So it's good that you couldn't find anything, because it means that exactly what I wanted. I think that my love for makeup, it really started as a young boy for me. Well, it kind of, I never thought I'm going to be a makeup artist ever. I actually was obsessed and loved photography. Photography and acting. Photography was my first creative passion, I would say. And I always thought I'd be an actor or a photographer. And I guess I kind of am both now, really. Like, I was always obsessed with cameras. My dad I would be the family photographer. You know, I had a Polaroid camera and film cameras, and then I went into digital. And then in year 12, I did photography as a subject at school. And then after that, I went to uni. I got into uni SA. I'm from Adelaide. To cut backwards as well, I always forget to mention this, but I actually grew up in Adelaide and Los Angeles. So I went to junior high and high school in LA as well, which is where I ticked my acting bug, because I did a lot of auditions and a lot of live theatre, and that's where that passion kind of started. And I think it's remiss of me not to mention that I used to do my own makeup for those plays. I remember stealing my mum's foundation when I was like in year 6 to cover pimples, and people would say, "Are you wearing foundation?" I'd be like, "Absolutely not. What are you talking about?" Like, I would completely lie about it. So that would have been my first, stealing mum's foundation. I can still remember it was like one of those like Maybelline, like in a plastic bottle, like no pump kind of vibe. So that's where I did a lot of my makeup. I would do makeup for like theatre on myself. So like, I remember I was like a dead corpse once. So like, you know, that kind of stuff. Jump forward. Then I went to uni SA and I did Bachelor of Arts. And then I quit after a year, moved to Melbourne. I always thought Melbourne was just, obviously, for someone who's creative, I don't know if you know much about Australia and the cities. Melbourne's much more creative and more London. If you can't make it to the real thing, you go to Melbourne. That I would do photo shoots and I would have makeup artists come in to do makeup for me. And that is where I saw the creative joy of makeup and how it can transform someone and how there's such a big relationship between the camera and the makeup. And I think that is kind of what my work is today, is that understanding of what the makeup looks like in camera or in person and the difference between the two.
So that makes total sense, to be honest, because the quality of your videos is like better than my eyesight.
I feel very creatively fulfilled when I'm able to put those two things together and help people. You know, I always say to people who ask me about content, I say, literally yesterday, I had this conversation yesterday with someone who stopped me in Mecca, and they were basically saying, I don't want to work in retail. I hate this. I want to do what you're doing. And I said, you have to use that dislike of your current situation, use that as motivation to work hard and to visualize what you want to do. You can't just you have to make content that you want to see. And it took me a long time to realize that. I've gone off on a tangent, sorry. To answer your question without the tangent, that's kind of where I started. And then I worked for, you'd know Illamasqua.
Yes. Oh, love Illamasqua.
Illamasqua was like when I was a young boy, before I was ever a makeup artist. Illamasqua to me was like the creative pinnacle of makeup. And because I don't know if you remember their campaigns.
Totally, with Alex Box, you know?
Alex Box was and is amazing. So Alex Box was a huge inspiration. And you'll know that if you look at any of their old campaigns, they really married photography, imagery with makeup more than any other brand, I think. That was like, to me, like, whoa, that is incredible. Like, I would just look at the photos and stare at them and have them as my like background on my computer or on my phone. Like, so when they came to Australia, I'd never worked in makeup retail. I was like, I have to work for this brand. Little did I know that it would be a whole different level of, traffic stopping. And people who work in retail now do not know how hard it was. Or I don't know if Illamasqua still does this, because I know they're in the UK still, but they're not in Australia anymore. How hard the retail environment was 10 years ago.
So different.
Having to traffic stop, having to grab someone and be like, I love the way your scarf looks. Let me put a lipstick on you that matches it perfectly. Don't give them a second to just sit in the chair and then do it. Like, you have to sell your soul.
You're stressing
basically.
me out even thinking about it. Did you ever do you guys have Benefit Cosmetics?
Yes, Benefit does. Yes, Benefit was the traffic stopping is just... And the sad thing is it did work. They'd be like, look, we didn't traffic stop yesterday and we traffic stopped today and we've made an extra 20% worth of sales. Like, I'm like, yes, because you're scaring people into buying product just to shut you up. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's not a good thing. You've terrified 20% of your customers. Congratulations. So that really almost put me off, to be honest. It's like meeting your hero is like me working for Illamasqua, because I was like, this is the reality. This is the management money side of makeup that no one sees unless you work in it in retail. I'm sure there's many people who have had this same experience that I've had. I hated it, the politics as well. So then from there, I went to go work at Mecca. I'm sure you've heard of Mecca, because I know that you've had a few Australians on here. I did my research.
Well done. So Mecca's kind of like your Sephora?
Or your Space NK.
Oh, okay.
You have that. It's that higher market brand. I think I went from Illamasqua to Mecca, and I worked at Mecca for about 3 or 4 years. I left Mecca in 2016, and then I actually went to go work at Sephora.
How was that?
Listen, I don't know. I'm always kind of like, especially when I'm like being recorded, I'll always say, if I don't have anything nice to say, I won't say anything at all. I'll leave it at that. And after Sephora, I lasted there for about 6 months. And then I went to go work for Decium. Decium was my like new version of what I thought Illamasqua was when I was a child. I thought it was amazing. I thought Brandon was a genius. He was. And I was very inspired by the way he had Decium, meaning 10, and it was 10 brands. I was really inspired by the way that they created products, not so much the ordinary, but more so NEOD, and how they would have a formula of one product. When better ingredients became available, they would actually update the same product, like a software update. It would be like version 2. And I've never seen a brand do that. The transparency and the creativity that was so, it really inspired me, and it made me, I was extremely passionate about, it took me a little bit away from makeup and it pushed me into ingredients a little bit more. And Nicola Kilner, do you know who that is? She's the CEO of Decium now, but at the time she was, I guess, kind of like the co-CEO. She actually flew in from London and I had my interview with her and she hired me on the spot.
Oh my God.
She was, she just did an interview actually with Diary of a CEO, a couple months ago. Very interesting. Especially to see the backstage of that situation. I don't know if you know much about what happened with Decium and Brandon and that whole story.
I do, but for the listeners who don't, should we tell them about it?
Sure. How do I say this? It's in like a Cliff Notes version. I mean, Brandon for sure definitely had mental health problems, and I think they got exasperated when he sold a portion of his company to Estee Lauder. And I can completely sympathize and understand that if one of my brands got taken away from me, sure, you get a monetary, like a healthy payout for it. But there's more to owning a brand than just money. When it's yours and it's your creation, it's something you've created, to see it leave you and to have that taken away from you, I can only imagine. So obviously I think that affected him.
Yeah.
And there was lots of behind the scenes things, like he closed the company down. I'd left just before this all happened. Yeah, he got basically ousted from his own company because he was acting very irrationally, like he'd closed the business down. And because it wasn't his, that he owned it 100% anymore, Estee Lauder was able to step in and be like, no, you can't close down the business. Like, we own part of this now. I mean, this is very Cliff Notes. It's a very interesting story. For anyone who's listening and doesn't know about the history of Decium, it's very fascinating. So I worked there and I was actually given a training position. So I would go and train different like Maya, like department stores who would stock the brand. I would go and train them on how to use the product, sell the product, ingredients in the product. If I wasn't training, I'd be in the store kind of like helping people buy the product, that kind of thing. That's where I got into training. And then once I left Decium, I'm old. I've had such a long beauty history. Once I left Decium, I then went and worked for L'Oreal. So I was a trainer for L'Oreal Luxe, which is YSL, Giorgio Armani, Lancôme, It Cosmetics, etc., etc. So I was a trainer for their specialty stores. So that would be training Mecca and Sephora. But that was never my goal, to stay in a corporate environment or to be in that environment. I always knew that it was not what I wanted to do. I was never happy. I almost did it because I felt like to work in the beauty industry or to create my own thing within that industry, pay my dues or do it hard or really understand what it's like from the inside out. So I slowly, over a decade, started traffic stopping and ended my career in the corporate beauty world as a trainer for L'Oreal. And that was the end of that chapter for me. I quit L'Oreal end of 2019.
How did it all end up on TikTok? Like, where did that begin? Where did your content creation start?
During the times that I was working at, all along my retail journey, I was creating videos and content, and obviously my photography side of things played a big role in that as well. I think it was just that I was spread very thin. So I was under a few restrictions, especially with L'Oreal. I'd have to use, while I was a trainer and part of that company, I would have to use L'Oreal products. And if I didn't, there would be a fine line that you would tread. Do it a couple of times, they'd be like, why are you talking about MAC? If there's anything that's going to like dampen your creative juices, is restrictions and rules and corporate greed. So having that overhanging everything definitely played a big... I knew that I had to leave L'Oreal when my boss would kind of pull me up on posting content about other brands or being honest. Sounds like a normal thing to do, but when you work for a company, it's hard to speak honestly about either their brands or other brands, or it was definitely difficult. Obviously, COVID happened, so there was no content creation happening there. And I think it was halfway through COVID, one of our lockdowns that we had, where I just was like, what am I doing? Like, I know what I want to do. I kind of am treading around it. I've quit my job. Like, I work for myself. I can do whatever I want now. I can create the content that I would want to see. That's probably my biggest piece of advice to anyone, is that you need to create the content that you want to see. I don't follow anyone on Instagram, meaning I'm supportive of my peers and colleagues, but I don't ever look at what they're doing and try and replicate it. I just do what I want to do and what I would want to see. And that's really what I've done. is I don't want my videos to be a before and after. And this is not to say anything wrong. I'm not trying to make fun of anyone else's content. I'm just, from my perspective, I don't want to see a before and after video of a bride. And I was doing that. My Instagram became a bridal page because I had to pay bills. And I'm sure you've heard this a million times, that you create the content that you'll attract, right? It's like the biggest law it's the biggest like number one lesson in content creation. If you do bridal videos, bridal work, you're going to attract brides. So my Instagram was that. And I decided that I would rather not make as much money doing brides and try and do content, something I was proud of, rather than posting as an advertisement for clients. So that's kind of the avenue I went down. I stopped posting bridal content and I started to create, to me, I feel like I'm sounding like I can hear my mum's voice in the back of my head being like, ask the other person a question, don't just keep talking about yourself. Like, it feels very unnatural to only talk about yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I want to be like, what did you do? How did you, where did you start? Like, you know what I mean? But it's not really for our podcast if we did that, right? Do you know what I mean? That's what it feels so unnatural. Like,
yeah.
So it's like, what do you do? What's your story? And then I tell you, and then you go, okay, and then what? And then just nothing about you. It's like,
nothing. Trust me, the listeners are sick of me, Johnny. They are sick of me. So this is all about you.
Do you do episodes of your podcast where it's just you?
I do, yeah. I trigger them in there. I trigger them in there. And yeah, I think it's definitely a learning curve. Like the very first episode was my story. And I was editing it. I was like, am I a narcissist?
That's exactly what it feels like.
But they want to hear this from you, Johnny.
As long as it's helpful. I guess I haven't really explained myself. I've just kind of shown up on Instagram and TikTok without any backstory whatsoever. And I do get a lot of messages asking, what are you doing? How did you do it? Where have you been? So yeah, it does make sense.
You were very mysterious, I have to say. Like doing my homework, all I could find was your content.
What else could you? Is that all you could find? You didn't find like an old MySpace or Facebook or?
I don't go to stalkery levels though. Like I feel like that's inappropriate. But you know, like when I did scroll back to like your earliest TikToks and I could see the part where you blow up. I could see that part. For anybody who doesn't know, what was the video or the era or what was it you did that elevated you content-wise?
It's a tricky question because I actually don't even feel like what you're saying I am. I don't feel like I am that. I don't feel like I have had that piece of content that's given me everything I want in life and, you know, cooks me dinner. And, you know, I think we were all waiting for that one video to blow up. I don't think it was one video. I think it was consistency, really. And it was steadfast and steady, continuing to do what I want to do, not what I'm told to do. All these stupid videos where it's like, use this trending sound. Instagram and TikTok are very much, it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not one of those investments where you lose $20,000. It's not something you put money into and it doesn't make sense how it's going to work, but you just kind of hope because you're wishing upon a star that it will eventually work for you. It's something that you have to work at. It doesn't happen, and it still hasn't happened for me. I'm not where I want to be. Like, I definitely further along that path than I was a year ago. And it's important to, you know, be kind to yourself. It's not, you know, it's the whole overall scheme of things that you have to look at, you know, like you have ups and downs. Like I have ups and downs on my TikTok and my Instagram. Like my views aren't what they were a month ago. And then a month before that, they were not what they were 3 weeks before that, you know, and it's very easy to get down on yourself. And I say that from experience because I'm very hard on myself. You just have to kind of sometimes to block out the noise and just keep creating the content that you would want to see. I mean, I'm probably going to it's really good. I think I just found the name for my next masterclass or video. I'm going to call it Create the Content You Want to See. So if anyone steals that, I know where you heard it from.
You need to hop off of this call and trademark that like ASAP. I was going to say though, from my perspective, you're probably going to be stunned with what I'm about to say. But from my perspective, I could see when you jumped to the next level, when I did my research,
Really?
I could see there was like a change in your lighting. There was a change in like your framing and there was a change. And it didn't happen in one video, but you can definitely see the change in like the up leveling of what you were putting out there. And that in my opinion, also from a data perspective, you look at that and then you look at like your likes and your shares and the comments, and you can see a correlation. So I would say maybe it wasn't one that blew you up, but there was definitely a time where you seemed to grow. Would you agree?
I think totally. I think what happened was I was very much in my own head, and I didn't ever want to take that jump to it was I didn't want to put my voice on camera. I didn't want to put my face on camera. I didn't want to even put my hands on camera because I was so worried about what people would think. Like all these non-existent people that I don't know, nor do I care what they really think. I never wanted to come across like I think I'm so good. I was always very worried because I would say that my voice is, I'm quite confident in regards to talking and expressing myself. And sometimes that can get misconstrued as cockiness or an attitude, which is what's happened in my previous jobs, right? So I didn't really want to open myself up to social media. I really put it off and I wanted to show my work, but I didn't want to be attached to it, if that makes sense. I started off a little bit slower and I'm very interested in ingredients, obviously. And there were so many videos that I was looking for that didn't exist. What is the base of this foundation? What does this work with? Why is this foundation advertised as dewy, but it's making me look dry? Or why is this like creating texture on my skin? All those things I was so interested in, and I was looking for those types of videos, for that type of content, and no one was making it. And I was like, well, I'll make it myself. Like I'll make the videos that I want to see. So I did that. And I started off by doing foundations and ingredients and reviews. And that was extremely popular on my socials. And that's probably what you saw on my TikTok. If you scroll down, you'll see a lot of me in store getting my hands dirty and talking about foundations and that kind of thing. And that was doing really well. That's how I think I built a bit of a following. But the problem with doing that kind of content is it didn't make me happy. It's something that I did like doing for a while. I then didn't want to because talking about ingredients and that kind of thing is like maybe 50% of why I love makeup. The other 50% is the creativity and actually doing makeup. And I like that more. That fulfills me more to do makeup. So then I switched my content from doing my voiceovers. So that got me comfortable. I would then like hold the record button and record. No one can see what I'm doing, but I'm acting it out for you, Kayleigh. I'm, you know that recording the voiceover. That's how I slowly dipped my toes into the pool, is that I created those ingredient videos because they were I wasn't committed to it. I'd do one, I'd post it. A couple of weeks later, I'd be like, I should really post another video. And then, yeah, like I said, I didn't like doing that anymore. And people would be messaging me like, hey, I use NARS Sheer Glow. Why doesn't this work for my skin? And I was like, oh no, like I'm not going down this path. Like I'm happy to help people. I can't answer everyone's makeup questions. So I kind of divert, and it would start to frustrate me. I was starting to get frustrated because my inbox would be full of people just asking me like 2 paragraphs worth of text, asking me to sort out their beauty routine. Of course, I want to help people, but it gets to a point where I couldn't help everyone. So I was like, okay, I need to stop doing this much of this content because I started to feel bad. Like I was to the point where I would actually just have to start deleting messages because there were so many of them. And I actually didn't have the time to even respond and say, hi, thank you for your query, or even a copy and paste. It would have taken me like 2 days to do. So I had to get to a stage where I just had to go delete all because, so if anyone's listening and you messaged me and you never got a response for me, it's nothing personal. It's that I was overwhelmed and people were sending me like paragraphs. I also didn't want to be known for that, so I didn't want people to just think I was the makeup ingredient whisperer. So I wanted to show off my work as well, like what I really love to do. So that's when I started to incorporate the ingredient stuff, with the actual application of makeup. And that's the kind of content that I now do. So that would be the evolution probably. But this, by the way, has only happened in the last year and a half, less than a year.
Oh my goodness. Would you say TikTok then, and let's focus on TikTok more because I think Instagram will have a different answer. Would you say TikTok has grown your career as an artist?
I think TikTok is much more non-committal. It has its good and bad sides. There's a good side about being non-committal that people can swipe past, like it, and engage with it, but they don't feel the need to follow you or to care about you or your story or what you're doing. It has its downs and it has its negatives and positives. The positive of that is that it's great because you get a lot of views. It gives you an inflated sense of popularity, but it's not real. It's very fickle. You can go from very, very highs to very, very lows. You can have one video that does 2 million and you can have the next video do 300 views. Do you know what I mean? It's not as consistent, and it's much harder to create a brand in an environment. It's also very but having said that, it's also very easy to create a brand on TikTok. It has its ups. If you're on the up and you're on the good side of TikTok, congratulations, you're going to get a lot out of it. But then there's the downside, which is it's not going to be 1.5 million views every time you post a video. There's an element of luck. There's an element of posting at the right time. There's so many factors involved. I know there's a lot of hate on Instagram at the moment. My platform of choice is still Instagram. I think that it's a total cop-out to be like the algorithm on Instagram's changed and that's why I'm not getting views. I see everyone blaming the platform. And I'm like, no, Instagram doesn't owe you anything. It's a free app, first of all. I'm not owed views. You're not owed views. If you're not getting the views that you want, it's because, listen, there are exceptions to this. It's because your content's probably shit. I mean, it's rude and horrible to say it like that, but the way that I'm saying that is exactly the advice I give myself. Why didn't this video perform? Because it's shit. I did it quickly because I felt like I had to post, if I'm really honest with myself. I think the hate for these apps or these social media algorithms is an excuse, and do better. Figure out why your content's not working, what people want to see. A lot of the content that I see, especially with makeup, is very narcissistic. It works for you, but I don't want to watch that. I scroll past it. What catches me, if something catches me and I want to watch the whole thing, then I'm like, okay, this is well done. And most of the content's not like that. That's why Kayleigh is so popular, because her content is interesting. Yes, she can be controversial. I don't see why. I think most of her hate is because people are jealous.
She isn't afraid to do new things. I saw literally this morning, she posted from the Rare Beauty, the mental health event. And that's a different style of content for her. Isn't that great?
And it was interesting though. So, it kept my attention. I watched the whole thing. There are other creators who create stuff that I don't understand. Why? I'm not the ringleader. I'm also not probably the demographic. I'm a 35-year-old male who's into makeup. So a lot of the makeup content isn't actually aimed at me anyway. So totally understandable. I've always been I'm like the opposite of like a female in a male dominated industry. I'm a male in a female dominated industry. So I don't really wear makeup myself. I'm not the typical beauty consumer. I'm in it for personality. So the people that I watch capturing me and my attention more than, or giving me something that I haven't already seen, more than just like a quick sped up eyeshadow something. You know what I mean? It has to be more than that. And I think everyone's just creating the same thing, same content.
When I looked at my own content, especially my makeup content, I was still posting content like it was 2017. I was still posting a static, beautiful image. And it's been, 5-6 years since 2017, if my quick math works. People have seen that. People have seen that static, beautiful look. We've seen pretty much every look at this point. It has to be something different now. And I think you're right when you say it isn't the algorithm. Sometimes it's the algorithm. Sometimes I put out a great piece of content and I'm like, oh, I don't know if that's me or the algorithm. I think it's the algorithm. Sometimes it is, but
it's probably because you're giving people, you have to remember, people are very selfish. As a fundamental trait of a human being is we're selfish. Whether you want to believe that or not, I'll be like, I'm different. You're not. Everyone's out for themselves. Sure, we have compassion and we have loved ones, and there are so many different aspects to that. I always have the idea that if someone's going to listen to me for advice or someone's going to watch my videos to learn something, I'm going to give it to them, and I'm going to give it to them quickly without the bullshit. That's kind of just always been me. If I've offended anyone, I'll apologize in advance. At the end of the day, the world is hard. It's tough. If it was easy to do, everyone would be popular. Everyone would be getting millions of views. At the end of the day, it's not easy for a reason, because it's so oversaturated. And to cut through that, you have to be unique. You have to create something that is of value to someone, because people are watching Instagram and TikTok either to get outfit ideas, to get recipes to cook for dinner tonight, to learn how to do their makeup, or if we're keeping it beauty centric, they're makeup artists who want to try and get free education to upskill their own craft so that they can then use that on clients to then make money. What I've seen a lot of is people stealing my entire video idea, and I'm not salty about it at all. It's totally fine. But that's why people are watching social media. There is a very small aspect of social media where it's to keep up with your friends and family. There's not a there's a reason that TikTok, when you go onto TikTok, you go into you don't see any of your friends and family because, I mean, at the end of the day, you want to see maybe some photos of your friends and family if you're in them. But other than that, you're probably not that interested. Or to see what they're wearing, so it's like a microcosm of what social media actually is, even on a family basis. So when I hear it's the algorithm, it's not. It's probably the content someone's already seen it and they don't want to see it again.
This podcast is brought to you by the Level Up Club, my monthly membership for makeup artists. Imagine a place created with done-for-you monthly resources and coaching, literally everything you need to create and scale a profitable, thriving makeup business. Well, it exists, and it's called the Level Up Club. I am so proud of this membership. I literally poured my heart and soul into it. Inside, you will find monthly Canva templates, monthly stock images, social media calendars, email templates, workflows, pro program lists, agency lists, monthly coaching and conversations with the people who can help smash gatekeeping. I'm talking agency owners, PRs, top makeup artists and experts. They're all inside. And not only that, but monthly in-person events. We have already held portfolio days, headshot days, branding days, and so much more is coming. The club is taking the mystery out of making money. Your makeup business doesn't have to be make-believe, and I'm showing you how. And guess what? It's only £30 a month. In London, that's literally 2 hot chocolates. I'm not even kidding. So come and join us, the only membership I promise you'll ever need. Now, back to the pod. Just the last question, I think, on content, because I do want to move on to your courses because I think that's really important. But for you, in your opinion, then, for the listener who is sitting at home and they're like, crap, I think it's my content. I don't think it's the algorithm. I think it's my content. What advice would you give them, Johnny?
Well, first of all, well done. I'd say to them, well done. You're probably doing 85% better than most people who are creating content. If you have the foresight to constructively criticize your own work and say, maybe this is just shit content, you're already ahead 85% for everyone else. You're also not looking for excuses or the easy way out. So you're another 10% ahead. So you're already 95% of everyone else, right? So if you can see that and you can identify what is shit about your content, fix it. If you're doing a montage of a bridal makeup that you've done and your goal is to capture and acquire more bridal clients, think about them from a bridal perspective. Do they care about the process or do they care about the end result? So you're trying to attract a makeup artist or you're trying to attract a bride. So you need to somehow fuse those two pieces of content together. Maybe you need to experiment and post one for makeup artists, one for brides. I wish I could give someone an easy answer, but it's like what I said before. If it was easy, everyone would do it. So it needs to be what is true to yourself. Like if you've just come out of makeup school, the best avenue isn't to then go straight into being an educator. I see some content, for example, maybe someone's just come out of makeup school, they've been doing makeup for a year and they're creating educational content. What's most helpful to hear is that I've been posting on social media for 10 years and I was consistent and I always believed that there would be a trend or a avenue of creating content that would suit me, which we covered is photography and makeup. There would be a way that I would be able to fuse those two things together and be of value to people. I wasn't doing that for the first, I've been on social media for longer than that. I mean, like 15 years. Like I wasn't doing that for the first 10 years. You know, I was learning how to create original content fused my passions together that would be of value to people. And it took me a decade to do that. Like I'm still, in the trenches with everyone else. But I think it's important to realize that it's not going to happen overnight and that you need to believe in yourself and that you need to just keep going because it might take 10 years. It might take 12. It might take 15 years. You need to keep going. And that's why you'll know if you're in the right profession because it shouldn't feel that hard to do it. You should do it because it's a passion and you enjoy it. So for me, I've always enjoyed doing it. So it hasn't been hard to keep up the stamina when I get like 10 views or 1 like. It's because I enjoyed it. I did it for me. But it was about having to go through all that to really find what what worked for me.
Nothing worth doing comes overnight. Nothing worth doing comes easy. I get questions all the time about how do we grow followers in the community? And I always say, just, you need to push past the 0 views. You need to push past the nobody answering your Q&A. You have to push past it all, because that's when people normally fall. And if you can push past it, you're already way ahead of those guys. Do you know what I mean?
No, you're totally right. It's 100% that.
Let's touch on what you wanted to touch on today, which was you have a course, and I have had some brilliant feedback on your course. One of my students, Kayleigh, I remember I was teaching her. She did my business course, and I asked her the question, whose content do you love? Because we were trying to figure out like where her content creation should go. And she said, I love this guy on TikTok. His name is Johnny T. He is like a no bullshit, like he gets to the nitty gritty of the ingredients. And I want to be that person that shows up and gives people value, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, who is this guy? Who is this guy?
What was her name?
Kayleigh. Shout out Kayleigh. She's going to be listening.
Thank you, Kayleigh. I appreciate that. Did she actually say no bullshit? He's no bullshit? Did she get that from my content? Okay. Thank you. That's the biggest compliment I could ever get.
She was telling me the exact example. I remember it so clearly. Is how everybody raves about magic cream for like the wrong reasons. And she was telling me about all these ingredients in magic cream. And she said she learnt it from your course.
Amazing. That's exactly what I would, like I said, that's the best feedback I can ever get. When someone says something like that, like, thank you for not waffling, straight to the point. There's no bullshit. I mean, if I had a brand image, that would be it. So, or just cut the crap, cut the bullshit. There's so much marketing waffle. Like, I love Charlotte Tilbury, don't get me wrong. I think she is one of those makeup artists when I was growing up that was a huge inspiration to me. But the marketing and the like 7,000% extra hydration in it, like come, like, please, like, it is the epitome of what is the beauty industry. It is such waffledy, and that's why people are so confused.
Yes, that is exactly what she said.
Because it probably had silica in it, which is going to absorb oil. Like, but anyway, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, no, she was saying all these things. I was like, who is this person? Like, because I don't have a clue about ingredients. So I went, and that's how I found you. But she credited your course, and it sounds like it is a very important course if you're an artist. So would you mind telling us about this ingredient course that you have?
Okay, so my courses are my idea of giving people what they want, but in a format that I was able to pour everything into, because it's paid content, obviously. So it's something that is part of my whole brand. Is with my TikTok videos, Instagram videos, and my course, I want people to leave feeling like they got a bargain, or they got more out of that than what they either paid for it in money or they paid for it in their time by watching something that I've done. When it comes to my courses, I've got one at the moment, which is called the Ultimate Ingredient-Based Workflow. And it's the only ingredient-based course on the internet. There are no other makeup courses that actually cover what you should know as a makeup artist. I mean, I'm talking even in makeup school, they don't tell you this kind of stuff, which baffles me. I don't understand it. If you don't know what a silicone-based foundation is, you don't have any place putting it on someone's face, because you don't know the chemistry of makeup. Is chemistry. Like, it's like being a photographer without understanding light. It's counterintuitive. To be the best kind of makeup artist you can be, you have to know the theory to then break the theory to be creative. It's like you have to know the rules, that saying where you have to know the rules before you break them, to a degree. My first course is about a silicone and water based. It's a silicone and water emulsion, and most foundations are silicone and water emulsions. So I decided to create that because it's the most common type of foundation. It's like your Armani Luminous Silk. It's your YSL All Hours. It's your Lancome Ultra Wear. It's your, all those it's your Revlon Color Stay. I could go on. But I wanted to create a workflow based around those types of foundations and products to use. And it comes with a PDF as well, like, that you can print off. And it's something that was really important to me because I wanted to help people, because these are all the questions I was getting on my videos. And like I said, I don't have the time to answer everyone's individual questions. So this is a way for me to offer that to people. And it's not just for makeup artists. I think one of my favorite feedbacks that I've ever had from my course was a woman. I can't remember. I think she was in America. I posted it on my Instagram. I've got in one of my highlights, I've got feedback from my course. And this particular woman had DM'd me and she told me that she couldn't afford to have a makeup artist at her wedding. I think it was because she couldn't afford it. It was, or she didn't want one of the two. And she purchased my course. She had my course with her on the laptop or phone while she was doing her own makeup on her wedding day. So she studied my course. She learnt the basics of makeup, and then she did her own wedding makeup and had the computer with my face on it at her wedding.
Wow, that's so cute.
That was the ultimate for me. I thought that was amazing. Like, that's kind of what it's aimed at. It's aimed at people who want to do their own makeup and just get a little bit more of an understanding on the basics. And also for makeup artists who want to understand something simple that can work on, I'm going to go out there and say it probably works on 95% of people, altering a few ingredients here and there. Like, you don't need to have 17 primers in your kit. You probably just need one moisturizer, 2 moisturizers and a primer. Like, if I'm honest, my kit that I took to Europe with me was this big.
Wow. He's doing he's showing hands that is like the small. It's small.
It's like the size of like maybe like 2 or 3 tissue boxes.
That's insane.
Because if you understand what the products are doing and how you can use them and manipulate them, you don't need to take a suitcase to Europe when you're doing bridal. I asked their skin tones before. I said, is there anyone that's going to have a super deep complexion? No. Is everyone getting fake tanned? Yes. So I knew that I probably actually only needed 3 foundations. But I took more because, that's the right thing to do. My next course that I'm working on is actually it's going to be about cream foundations, and it's going to be a cream-based workflow. And it's actually I'm actually using footage from my wedding because I do a lot of destination weddings now as well. That's my new thing. Bringing that into it, which is going to have live demos. And then it's also going to have footage from me actually showing how I put those theories into practice. So that'll be launching in probably beginning of next year. So it's a much bigger course, much more in depth. And it's the kind of thing that someone could watch as a makeup artist or someone who wants to do their own makeup. And I would almost guarantee that at the end of that, you would be able to go and do someone's makeup confidently. That and my brand are my 2 avenues that I'm really pouring myself into at the moment.
Could you tell us about that? Because this was something when we were emailing back and forth, you said you'd like to touch on. And I was like, wait, I don't know about this. So can you tell us what is Tamed?
So it's Tamed X, and it's my brand. I mean, listen, it's kind of got a little bit of a vibe of Deciem because obviously that was a huge inspiration for me. It's nothing like Deciem at this stage. It's very much focusing on I didn't want to create something, put it this way, I didn't want to create something that was going to add more waste and more pollution to the environment. I felt like that was very self-serving. To create products and then also as a byproduct of that, put more trash on our planet. So at the moment I do different styles of, I only use individual lashes. I don't use strip lashes. I don't like strip lashes. So my individual lashes come in cardboard sheets, and you can buy the case separately or use a case you've already got, and you can buy them by the refill. So you're not throwing out a chunk of plastic this big every time you go through a pair of lashes. It's such a disgusting waste of plastic.
You've just blown my mind actually, Johnny, because I try to be really conscious of stuff like that, but I've never actually thought about the waste that comes with lashes.
It's more than anything else because lashes, if they're a single pair of strip lashes, you use them once or maybe you reuse them, but let's be honest, who keeps the plastic packaging? Not everyone. So you throw that out. Every time you use lashes, you're throwing out this, and it's not, I don't have one of my cases here, but it's not like that thin plastic. It's that real heavy, hard duty plastic that we're throwing out, which is so hard to break down. I wanted to create something that was me as an artist, something that I always use, something that I was able to just not do the same thing everyone else is doing, something that was going to help and make less waste in the environment. So that's been my first avenue. And I also do some accessories. So I do a custom cut sponge. I'm very particular about my beauty blenders. So I created one that has it uses a specific kind of rubber material that is super, super soft and doesn't lift up your foundation. And all of my puffs and sponges come in packaging that's made from cornstarch. So you can actually fully recycle it as well. So there's no plastic bags. Every time you get a beauty blender or a sponge, it comes in more plastic. So I'm not one of those environmentalists by any means, but I think there is something to be said about unnecessary waste. I don't love the idea of refillable foundations and that kind of thing. Yeah, I don't think the technology's there for some of the beauty items, but I think there is definitely space for less waste that makes sense. So where I'm going with Tamed X though is there's a lot of formulas that I'm obsessed with. Like I love, if you've seen my work, you know that I love a liquid bronzer. So that's a formula that I've been working on for a long time, but it takes so much work to create a product that's got a shelf life and creating enough shades. So that's kind of in the future, but for now it's slow. I've only launched it 4 months ago, so it's still a baby.
It's a baby. Oh my goodness. I know that some of the listeners, I literally can read their minds right now. They're going to be wondering, how on earth does one start a brand-based business? How do you create a product? Where do you even start? So where did you start when it came to this?
It's another one of those questions that I don't feel like I don't have a brand that's like huge and big to be the authority on this question, but I'll give some advice. And that is that it goes back to my overall thing with everything. Don't create something that you would want to use. Create something that isn't what everyone else is doing. Create something that is the same as your content. It's an extension of your content if that's what you want to do. You're not just making something for the sake of, I want to have my own brand. It's something that I thought of for probably, I had sitting in the back of my head for a good 5 years before I actually just was like, okay, I need to just do this. And the way I did it was starting off small, like I decided to go down the route that I've gone down because I didn't want to have product formulation costs at this stage because that's very expensive. And I also don't want to do anything I don't want to go and necessarily private label a formula from like Alibaba, or I didn't want to do something like that either. So to have your own formula and to have something that's bespoke and unique costs a lot of money. So it's much more affordable to do that with a product that doesn't expire, which is what I did with my lashes, because I can do relatively small quantities. I don't have to worry about it going off or affecting someone's skin. And those are all things that I obviously take very seriously. So this was a great way to fulfill myself creatively, create something that I actually wanted to create without having the cost. I mean, to create a formula costs about $10,000 on the low side, on the low side. That's just to create basically the recipe. Doesn't mean it's good. And then the backwards and forwards changing. I've worked in a lab. I've done like 3 samples of one liquid bronzer at the moment, and it's not going that well at the moment. So it's one of those things that I might have to go outside of Australia to find a factory that, because I'm very picky about liquid bronzers. Formula I want to make isn't actually being able to be made in Australia. I want to keep it Australian made. So I've actually been in the lab mixing myself, and I think I just need to. So if there's any chemists listening, please reach out.
We need to get some chemists on here.
If you dare want to put up with me.
I can imagine you being so hot on ingredients and so hot on formulations, like that's your thing, that when this does eventually come out, because we're going to manifest it, it's going to be just like, it's going to kill everyone else.
Thank you, Kayleigh. I really appreciate that manifestation. I need all the help I can get at this stage.
Do you have time for a game?
Sure.
So this is a game I run called Smashing the Gate. And it's basically my mission as an educator is to smash down the gates of gatekeeping, which stop people in business and beauty from earning their fullest potential. So these are some anti-gatekeeping quickfire questions, and a lot of them have come from our community. So are you ready? So Sophie has asked, what are your favorite looks to create?
Are they specifically asked to me?
To you.
Where people have asked these questions to me.
To
Do you have like I'm that annoying person who needs to know the backstory? Do you have like a message board or a broadcast channel or?
Yes. So this is from my Level Up Club community. So I run a monthly makeup artist membership, and in that membership, they get access to masterclasses and just everything that a makeup artist needs from the business side. Business is kind of my thing. So I ask them whenever I have a podcast guest on, particularly one that they've requested, and you were one that came up a lot, I will ask them, what questions do you want me to ask in the Smashing the Gate section? So these all come from me.
Okay, great. Awesome. So what was the first question?
The question is, what are your favorite looks to create?
Probably anything that's a smoky eye, number one. I don't like a simple liner look is boring to me. Something that's smoky, colorful, because basically anything that's not bridal or what I do when I'm doing makeup every day, it's the same kind of, brown, this smoky liner blushes. So anything where I can like whip out the multi-chromes and it's smoky. I love a multi-chrome, especially the Color Cosmetics ones. I do love those. Anything that's like where I can like really get into makeup, like I can go in with like my cream eyeshadows and I can get creative. I can use creams and then I can put powders on top and then I can put pigments on top of that. And then I can, do lashes and then I could put glitter on top of that again. And, just anything that's fun and really the essence of what makeup should be, having fun and being creative, probably even more than having fun. You should be being creative, because that is what, when I've shot a look, because the way I shoot my looks is I'll get a model in and I'll do 2 looks on them. So it's about 6 or 7 hours of filming, of doing makeup. And I never really pre-plan the looks I'm going to do. I always go off their vibe, what clothes they've brought in. When I've created something that works with the clothes that they're wearing and it works with their face shape and it works with the hair, and I've created a makeup that is creative and looks good, that is what gives me, that's where I find my true fulfillment in what I do. So I hope that answers that question.
It does, absolutely. Sophie has also asked a follow-up. What are your top products for a perfect base? And I feel like for you, this one isn't going to be so clear cut.
Sophie knows what she's doing when she asked that question. I don't want to give the generic response that it depends on what skin type you are. It depends on what, coverage you like. I think I'm going to have to say a good brush and a good sponge, because I can make anything work with a sponge and a brush most of the time. I mean, I'm not trying to toot my own sponges, but obviously they're the ones that I use. But I think having those two, like to apply your foundation with a brush stippled on and then to go over that with a sponge, is going to work on most complexion products. Yes, there are times where I would say I wouldn't want to use a brush. I would just want to use a sponge. To be generic and generalize, a good buffing brush, like the It Cosmetics No. 7 brush would be a great one for that. And the Tamed X sponge would be the second. And that would be, you could get a pretty amazing base if you have those two tools.
This one has come from Claire, and she said, your lighting setup always looks gorgeous. What are you using to film and light with?
This is the most asked question that I get. It's a hard question to answer because the equipment I use is professional equipment. So the setup that I have is over $10,000. My lens alone that I shoot on is about $3,500. So I don't talk about it much because it's not realistic for most people. And that's because obviously I have a real passion for photography and I use it for multiple things. But if I'm going to be helpful, because what I actually shoot with is not helpful, my answer to that question would be, don't use a ring light. Use a flat panel light. Don't buy anything don't have anything that goes above 560 kelvins, which is the light temperature, which is white light. You don't need the yellow light. So if you buy a light that has 2 sets of LEDs in it, one of them are yellow, one of them are white, you're paying for yellow LED lights that you're not going to use. So make sure you only buy a light panel that uses white light, which is 5600 Kelvin from memory. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's 56K. And that's the temperature of light that you need for shooting beauty. It gives you, it's white light. I think will be beneficial to a lot of people rather than my 25 light setup, because it's the camera, but then you've also got to have the computer as well to edit 4K. So you're looking at then like another $4,000 for the computer. And I think all of those things will put people off from doing what they actually just need to do. And that's, you've got a phone. Just make sure your lighting's nice. You
I know how to use these things as well. Like if you gave me that camera, I would be like, what the fuck am I doing with this camera?
If I gave you my camera, you would need to take a photography course. This is why it's an issue. This is why, and I'm happy to dive into it, but I know we don't have much time left. But the thing is, when you're using professional equipment, it's very expensive, astronomically expensive, but it's also, you've got to know how to use it. So everything I shoot is manual. So you have to understand f-stops, shutter speeds, ISO. You have to understand the light temperatures. You have to understand what type of lens you're using, all that, as well as then the lighting. And then, it's definitely something that I think I will one day eventually go down, and I will do my last course that I do will be photography meets makeup or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Where I fuse the two together. But for now, I think that will help a lot of people if you just know the right light to get.
Okay, this one comes from Yvonne, and she's asked the juiciest question, by the way. Like the juiciest
watch
question
out.
of all time. She's asked.
That's concerning.
Where
Because I'll probably answer it.
We are smashing down the gates of gatekeeping. She has asked, where does your income come from mainly? Is it bookings, education, or TikTok?
Okay. My income mostly comes from working as a makeup artist, weddings, appointments, clients. My second income would be things like my course and my brand. Couldn't afford to live off my course and my brand. My brand is only 4 months old, and my courses, while they do well, I'm still creating more. So I'd eventually plan to have maybe 3 or 4 that people can really get a full grasp of education on. My other income sources would be add-ons. I think add-ons are really important. So add-ons, lashes, add-on. I think if we're going to talk about money, I think it's important to mention that when you have a booking system, your booking system you need to have a good online booking system. I see a lot of people who have booking systems that are way too complicated. You want your customer, it's like anything. If you're checking out, you want to make them giving you money as easy as possible. You also want to have options. So you want to think about every possible add-on you can add on. You need to offer that to your customer. Add-ons, you've got, go to my website and have a look. You'll see all the add-ons I've got. Pretend to be a client and look at all my things and then copy it. So you can buy your lipstick, you can buy your touch-up kit, you can get your lashes added on, you can add on airbrushing, you can add on, if they can add it on, I will try and think of it and offer it to my customer. And it's not about trying to, what's the word? It's a difficult kind of psychology where you think I'm trying to sell. It can feel a little bit what's the right word? I can't think of the right word I'm looking for. It's
icky. You can feel a bit like you're upselling. Icky. It can feel a bit like retail
upselling.
Again.
It can feel icky. It can feel like retail. At the end of the day, it's actually benefiting the customer. It's actually the reason that add-ons sell and make you money is because the customer likes having those options. They okay, yes, I do want to do lashes. Oh, what's that? Oh, that sounds fun. I want to add that on. If they're getting their makeup done, it's a luxury already, right? A lot of people want to spend their money. Spending money is enjoyable to people. So getting their makeup done is a treat. It's an experience. They want to spend. They want to spend their money with you. As long as you do a great job, you don't want to rip anyone off. You want to be consistent again, and you also want to be honorable. So you're not forcing anyone to press the button. So add-ons would be my other great. I also take touch-up kits and lips because I've got a lip formula that I've been working on, and I sell lips, but I don't have them online. I only sell them to my customers at this stage. So I take all that along to weddings with me. So, there might be a wedding where I sell an extra $300 worth of lipstick.
Wow, incredible. That really ups the rate, doesn't it? That can make a real difference.
It can pay your rent for a week, So if that's inspired you and you're listening, I hope that, because there is so many avenues. You don't have to have your own brand to upsell or to make the money. You just need to think about what you would want as a service and then give that to someone.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh, Johnny, I have so enjoyed talking to you today. Just for full disclosure for all the listeners, by the way, Johnny, I don't think I had pressed record at this point. Johnny doesn't do podcasts very often over Zoom digital platforms. He prefers the face-to-face experience. And today, he's in Australia, I'm in London. It's very hard sometimes technically for the internet to withstand that. And I just want to extend my gratitude to you, Johnny, because you did put up with a few technical hitches today and you still did the damn thing. So thank you so much for being here.
It was my pleasure, Kayleigh. Thank you for having me.
Could you let everybody know where they can find you and more importantly, your course? Because I would really reiterate how much great feedback I've had on your course.
I appreciate that. My Instagram is Johnny T Makeup. My TikTok is johnny.thorpe. I should really make them the same. And if any advice I can give, make your TikTok and Instagram the same username. My website is, if you want to go and have a look at, if you're a makeup artist and you want to go have a look at how I structure my pricing, you can find all that at jonathanthorpe.com. And if you want to shop my course, and my brand, you can find all that at tamedx.com. So that's TAMEDX.com. That's all my links.
Everyone go check it out, please. And especially if you are here listening today and you have not seen Johnny's content, please go look at it because, as I said, it is better than my eyesight and it's ever so inspirational.
Oh, thank you. I really do. Like, I appreciate all the kind words that people of you and a lot of people send me online. It makes the long hours of editing and working, it makes it worth it to know that I actually have helped people. So thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Everybody in my community loves you. So you're doing us such a grace today being here and talking to us. Thank you so much.
It was my pleasure.
I'm going to let you go because it is so late where you are now. If you want to do a part 2 when you're in London next, I will organise that face-to-face. I will organise it and I'll do a whole damn setup.
You don't have to ask me twice for London. So hopefully I'm in London next year because I'm doing weddings in Italy and Greece next year, destination. And I want to do I've had a few inquiries for the UK as well. I really want to go to the Cotswolds.
Oh, you would love it. It's so British.
Driven past a little bit on a bus and I'm just like, I'm actually, my whole background is English. Like my grandparents are all from Cornwall. I am English. I don't sound it. I've got a lot of English heritage. So I feel like a very strong connection towards London. So if there's any single London men who, no, I'm just kidding. Probably not, considering it's all makeup artists. It's probably all women. So wrong podcast, Johnny.
I think my male percent is like 4, but there might be one in there for you.
Okay.
I have adored this. Thank you for starting my day off so wonderfully. And we will talk soon, okay?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye, darling.
You have been listening to a podcast by Kayleigh. Thank you so much for tuning in today and being on this mission with me to self-improvement and taking steps towards financial empowerment. If you liked what you heard today, be sure to follow me on the gram at By Kayleigh Podcast, where I post pretty much daily. I would also love to hear your thoughts, feedback, and energy. So please do leave me a review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you are listening today. In the meantime, I want you to go forward, believe in yourselves, and be the change you want to see. Bye, guys.